Every one of us is a spender. The things we buy every day create the demand that keeps companies profitable and hiring new workers. For the economy to grow, it needs spenders like us. The problem is, when you and I spend, the surest thing that seems to grow is the size of our debt. Now, what impact does spending really have on our lifestyles and in our communities? Hi there. Welcome to our networking platform, where you and I get to exchange ideas on how we can fix ZA. I'm your host, Koliswa Pearl. I aspire to be an inclusive growth catalyst who fosters, oversees, and perpetuates the affluence of the people of South Africa. Now let's get to it. Let's start with why consumer spending is important and what influences it. Now, your take-home salary or wages determines spending. Without it, no one would have the funds to buy the things that they need. Now, as income increases, so does demand. This prompts suppliers to produce goods and services to meet this demand. This creates jobs. Workers' wages rises, creating more spending. More spending creates more demand. More demand leads to more jobs. That's why spending is important. It's a virtuous cycle leading to ongoing economic expansion. So spending is not a problem, right? I've just explained that. Where spending is a problem is with us households. When we spend, the only thing that seems to grow is the size of our debt. That is what we're here to solve. How do households also spend in the creation of household income, in the expansion of household income? Before we continue, the country's debt to GDP in October 2020 was calculated at around 82.7% of GDP. Now, this calculation was done by the IMF. You'll get the context of this later. The South African Treasury predicts the national debt to increase to 4.38 trillion in around 2022, next year, to 2023. This is due to expanded government expenditures and the slow-growing economy. Let's get over that for a second. What I want us to sit on is the problem that we have as households. When a significant number of households spend on goods and services, as I have said before, it increases the size of their debt. And in the long run, it decreases the purchasing power. And it further creates inequalities and their class position. The impact that spending has on society, in my opinion, in our inability as households to spend in the creation of income, is the leading cause of classism. Class, which results in unemployment, inequality, and poverty, which is then felt by a large and significant number of households in South Africa. Hear me out. Because some people's income rises faster than others, right? It creates a social divide called classism. Because spending power multiplies opportunities that can help someone to change or maintain their class position. Classism, okay, we've all have experienced it. It is kept in existence by systems of beliefs and cultural attitudes that ranks people according to economic status, family lineages, job statuses, levels of education, and so on and so forth. One person, for example, can be provided paid education and better career opportunities, while another has to work extra hard to get the same paid education and career opportunities, all based on the class in which they come from. Spending, which affects classism, which affects the social class, and how we relate to one another. You see, middle class people get upper in South Africa in most spaces of our society. They are seen as smarter and more articulate, than the lower class or and the working class. And as a result, poor people often internalize this. And this creates within themselves low self-esteem, low expectations, discouragement, and this can also lead to bitterness towards others who are working class, which further then divides communities. So at the core of it, it's the spending power between one individual and the other. It is what is at the source of all of this. We then tend to find scapegoats and blame others, which continues this cycle of classism and negative impact, particularly in tough economic times, such as AIDS. This is Bonasiku's. Overall, this results in attention being diverted from the real and damaging policies existing in our country, or from the real systems that are put in place that really, really benefit the powerful and elite at the expense of the poor, and their ability to shift from the desired classes. One such crippling system that is internalized in South Africa is the idea that we can continue to multiply wealth by dividing it. The term saving is probably the biggest lie of big business in South Africa. Saving does not grow economies such as ours up better than what spending does. Yours and ours as households is to figure out how we can start spending in the creation of household income, in the development of household skill, and in the advancement of inclusive growth in Mzansi. Pledge allegiance.